The conflict between Israel and Hamas is a complex and long-standing issue. It is rooted in the struggle for land and self-determination. In 1948, Israel was established on land that was also home to Palestinians. This displacement of Palestinians created tension from the very beginning. Hamas, formed in 1987, emerged as a Palestinian movement opposed to Israel's existence. They saw Israel's presence as an occupation, and fought for an independent Palestinian state. The heart of the conflict lies in competing claims to the same land. For Israelis, it is their ancestral homeland with deep religious significance. Palestinians, on the other hand, see it as their rightful home from which they were displaced. This fundamental disagreement fuels the conflict and makes finding common ground extremely difficult. The late 1980s saw the first Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli rule. This marked a turning point, with Hamas gaining prominence for its resistance activities. The Oslo Accords in the 1990s offered a glimmer of hope. These agreements aimed for a two-state solution, with Israel and an independent Palestine coexisting. However, the accords failed to address key issues like the status of Jerusalem, Jewish settlements in the West Bank, and the right of return for Palestinian refugees. The failure of the peace process led to the Second Intifada in the 2000s. This period was marked by increased violence, including suicide bombings by Hamas and Israeli military operations. Hamas's electoral victory in Gaza in 2006 and its subsequent takeover of the territory further escalated tensions. Israel's blockade of Gaza, implemented in 2007 to restrict Hamas's military capabilities, worsened the humanitarian situation in the Strip. At the core of the conflict is a clash of ideologies. Israel, a democratic state, prioritizes the security of its citizens and its right to exist as a Jewish state. It views Hamas's armed struggle and rejection of its legitimacy as existential threats. Hamas, on the other hand, sees itself as a liberation movement fighting for Palestinian self-determination. It views armed resistance as a legitimate response to what it considers Israeli oppression. These opposing viewpoints make dialogue and compromise extremely difficult. Israel's insistence on Hamas's recognition of its right to exist, and Hamas's demand for an end to the occupation before any negotiations, are non-starters for the other side. Given the deeply entrenched positions and decades of mistrust, a two-state solution or lasting peace seems like a distant prospect. The continued expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and the lack of trust between the parties make meaningful negotiations nearly impossible. Moreover, the absence of a third-party mediator acceptable to both sides further complicates the situation. The conflict continues to claim lives and fuel instability in the region. Without a fundamental shift in the dynamics and a willingness to compromise on both sides, the cycle of violence and suffering seems destined to continue. The path to peace remains elusive, leaving a trail of shattered hopes and a future shrouded in uncertainty.